You're listening to the Mile High Church podcast. Welcome and thanks so much for tuning in. We've got some wonderful things happening here at the start of the new year that we hope you will consider, including all of our upcoming classes. You can find out more about those at our website, including our basics class, Beyond Limits. And speaking of basics, our Sundays in January will be Back to Basics, a series where Reverend Josh will be teaching you and inspiring you into the basic ideas of science of mind.
One of the things I love about our religious science teaching is that we don't rush to give superficial or artificial answers to life's big questions. We have the spiritual courage and the faith sometimes to actually not know, but to stand and be open to greater truths. Take, for example, the question of the nature of God. Did God create the universe and then continues to interact through it all through time, like the great monotheistic religions teach us? Maybe. Did God create the universe, say he was going to go out and get some milk and never come back? That's what many of the founding fathers believed. Not the milk part, but the deism part. Or as many Eastern teachings give to us, is God the universe itself? Every rock, every flower, every individual. Or is it, as Ernest Holmes taught us, that God is the self-knowingness in each and every one of us? That we are all expressions of one light. And as this divine being knows itself in us, it evolves and expands. And as we know this self-knowingness in us, we grow and we evolve and expand. And as we come to know ourselves, we come to know the divine. And as we come to know the divine, we come to know ourselves. And this evolution is what Jesus called bringing the kingdom of heaven onto earth. Or maybe it's like Douglas Adams said, there is a theory of the universe that the moment you come to understand it, it immediately transforms into something incredibly bizarre and incomprehensible. There is another theory that says that this has already taken place. A sin for a religious scientist, one of them would be coming to a conclusion. We always want to keep an open mind to exploring the great ideas of life. What happens to me when I die? Heck if I know. But it's a sin to not explore it, because my exploration of that will affect, or lack thereof, how I experience my life every day. Is this thing called the law of attraction real? Does my thinking influence reality? Think and find out. Practice bringing intentionality to your thinking just for a week. Try it as an experiment and see what comes about. Do I have a destiny, a calling, a purpose? I'm not sure, but if I dedicate myself to being all that I can be in this life, the adventure that is provided by that courage will answer that question for me as well. Keep thinking, keep questioning, keep expanding. That's part of this adventure called life. Now, here at Mile High Church, there's an inherent problem that I'm aware of every week when I'm speaking before you. And that is that we are based on a distrust of ministers. This whole teaching came about because of a distrust of ministers. Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was a minister, looked at himself in the mirror and looked at other ministers of his time and said, these guys aren't bringing people closer to God. They're pulling God closer, further away. He called all of us, and using the American spirit, back into our own withinness. He would say in a little essay called Self-Reliance, whoso would be a man must be a nonconformist. Always hard to share at new members class. He who would gather immortal palms must not be hindered by the name of goodness, but must explore it if it be goodness. Nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your own mind. Absolve you to yourself, and you shall have the suffrage of the world. Now, I don't know the story that brought you to Mile High Church, but I am guessing that for most of you, it's complicated. And I'm guessing that for most of you, there is a point where you heard something preached from someone like me, a preacher, an evangelist, and what they said offended your soul. Doesn't matter what religion they wore, but they said something that offended your soul and that wasn't true in your heart of hearts. If you like to be naked and lay in the grass every once in a while, you're a witch. If you love someone who's the same sex as you, there's something inherently wrong and sinful about you. If you are a child raised in India, taught the golden rule and all the best virtues of life, and yet you still worship a deity that resembles an elephant, you're going to go to hell. There is something inherently wrong with you that must be spiritually fixed. We are all born spiritually damaged. Even if you are the most precious little baby, so precious that the smell of your dirty diapers brings a tear to the eye because your life is so precious, there's still something inherently wrong with you that you need the church to fix. And part of us said no, this doesn't resonate with me. And perhaps like me, you made one or both of the following mistakes. The first is that although you dismissed what the pastor was saying, you still left them their authority. Instead of saying, God, you're representing God, you clearly know nothing about her. You allowed that individual to still speak for God, so much so that you may have distanced yourself from divinity and divine truth. And second, you may have done the mistake of recognizing that just because you leave the church doesn't mean you don't keep the worldview. When we don't think for ourselves, someone or something else thinks for us. So for many of us, the calling is to build that spiritual philosophy, finding it within first and then discovering it anywhere we can around us that helps us understand the truth in our experience about the nature of God, the nature of who we are as human beings, the nature of these beautiful children we've been talking about, the purpose of life. There is no greater blasphemy to God than the idea that you are unworthy. No greater blasphemy to the Spirit than to miss out on the truth of your precious, beautiful nature. There's a little anthem we have in New Thought. It's a song that was written by a woman named Libby Broderick in the late 1980s. I've been in this teaching since I was a teenager, and I've always found it kind of corny, even make fun of it from time to time. If you know me, you know I don't like cheese in any way, shape, or form. It's a little cheesy. And yet the message is so profound and important. So as my amends to making fun of the song, I'm going to sing it to you this morning because I want you to hear the message. And it goes like this. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. So that's the sweet part. Here's the challenge. If anyone is telling you that you're unworthy, it's you. We're grown-ups now. And if anyone is telling us that we are unworthy, it's through the filter of ourselves. We have to stop it. We have to realize that this teaching does not work unless we build the knowledge of ourselves enough to allow it to work through us. We cannot know the divine without knowing ourselves. And we cannot know ourselves without knowing the divine. They are intricately related. That self-knowing that's expanding itself in so many incredible and beautiful ways. How do we sum this teaching up? I'll give it a try. 4 truths. God is love. We are all one. Life is good. Do the best you can. God is love. We are all one. Life is good. Do the best you can. If you can remember the best you can to remember those first 3 truths, take them and seek to apply them in your life, you will have embodied and mastered this teaching. God is love. It doesn't mean that God just has a whole lot of affection for you, which I'm sure God does. What God as love means is that the creative impetus back of all creation is love. Love is the most powerful force in the universe, and all comes from love, and all in the end will return to love, and that love is balanced right here in the heart of our spirits and our souls and beingness. If you can get back to love, you've gotten back to the beginning of creation, and you can live rightly again. If you get stuck in not love, you don't know yourself and you don't know God. Love yourself back to love. Love yourself back to love. We are all one. We are all one. Each and every one of us is a manifestation of the light. How we reflect that light or deflect it is up to us. That is what we call uniqueness. In this thing called you, sorry, it took me a little while to get around to it this morning, Ernest Holmes shares with us, this union, however, does not mean sameness. For while unity requires conformity to principles, unity never means uniformity. Every blade of grass, every crystal, every drop of water, like every individual, is a little different from any other one of its species. The great Joseph Campbell invited us to imagine ourselves in a lecture hall, in a place just like this, and to see that the hall is filled with light bulbs, just like the ones above us here. And he invites us to recognize that every bulb is different, but the light in each bulb is the same. What matters for each of us as individuals is the quality of our consciousness. That is what we're called to. Who am I in relationship with this light? How am I going to choose to reflect it, or am I going to spend the whole of my life running from it, not seeing it in myself and others? Quality of life is your quality of consciousness. And as we nurture our awareness of the light within, we begin to bring forth what is best and most precious and colorful and beautiful within us in this grand mosaic. Think how life would be different if everyone knew this light was within them and that the work of life was to bring it forth and radiate it. Not to hide it under a bushel, but to shine and be the beautiful, precious light that you are. Life is good. Life is good. We're the only religion I know that teaches this as a fundamental principle. Despite appearances, and sometimes even because challenges, the heart of this thing called life is good. There is nothing wrong with this world inherently. The cosmos is not broken. There is a powerful good in the universe at the heart of all life, and its nature and propulsion is to make things better and better and better. What happens? We mess it up. We get in the way. we struggle. But if we could remember this force for good and to be a presence for it in our lives, we can begin to overcome these obstacles. I know when we look at the world and at our country sometimes, it seems that these obstacles are insurmountable. You just want to give up. Don't give up. Remember that good and know that you can bring it forward in your life. Holmes wrote this thing called You in 1945, and at the same time, a little movie came out a year later called It's a Wonderful Life, and this quote makes me think of both of these things. Holmes says, "The greatest gift life could have made to you is yourself. You are a spontaneous, self-choosing center in life, in the great drama of being, the great joy of becoming, the certainty of eternal expansion. You could not ask for more, and more could not have been given." The gift of life is not given once. It's always right here in this moment. Receive the gift every day, and you will live at one with this good instead of seeing it as something ethereal or alien or absent from you or your life. All that being said, do the best you can. Do the best you can. Is there anything else you can do? No. Just do the best you can over and over. Are you going to fall it down? Yes. Are you going to win the game and break an ankle? Sometimes. Just keep on moving forward in awareness that God is love, that deeply we are one, that there is a good happening and wanting to take place in my life right now, over and over and over again. Reflecting on Dr. King this week, I'm reminded of his first great calling was to lead the Montgomery bus boycott in Montgomery, Alabama. Rosa Parks had refused to go to the back of the bus, and a bus boycott was called for. And for 11 months, the majority of blacks in Montgomery, Alabama, refused to board the bus. And the reason they were able to do that is they created a rideshare and carpool program. So people didn't have to walk all the way to work, although some people did as a point of pride and protest. The mayor, finally wanting to end this boycott, made the decision that ride sharing was a kind of business. And if you wanted to continue it, you were going to have to get a business license. And guess who wasn't going to be granted a business license? So King and his representatives took them to court, and King knew they weren't going to be victorious. And he shares, "I felt so small before speaking to the weekly meeting." He spoke every week. These individuals had worked so hard, almost an entire year, boycotting this bus program that was needed in the community in order to stand up for civil rights. And I have to get up and tell them that it's about to be over. He did get up in front of those folks. He shared and told them the absolute truth. And he ended by saying, at this point, we can only trust that when there is no way, that God makes a way. That God is the only thing in presence that can make a way out of no way. See, that's this concept we have with doing the best you can. It actually calls us to give up control. Doesn't that feel good to give up control? A lot of us are like, no. I need control over every aspect of my life. Be the best you can is the principle of releasing control so something greater than even we can imagine can demonstrate itself. King's in court the next day. He's proud of his lawyers, how they're standing up for the law in the case. But there's a recess, and he knows that they're about to be ruled against. Just then, a journalist enters the room, and he has a note for Dr. King. The Supreme Court just announced segregation illegal in Montgomery, Alabama. A way was made out of no way. And I'm not trying to compare all of our lives to Dr. King's, but I invite you to know that if you're doing the best you can, which is all you can do, there is a power that will take care of the rest. We have to learn to give up control and to trust this power to reveal to us the highest and best in our lives. Sometimes it won't look like it. Sometimes it's going to be this broken ankle sucks, right? It sounds like it should be easy to live these 4 truths, but the unfortunate truth is we live under 4 illusions. Too many of us allow ourselves to live under 4 illusions. What are they? That God can hate, that we're all alone, that life sucks, and that you are unworthy. These are the 4 illusions. That God can hate, that you're all alone, that life sucks, and that you are unworthy. Anyone live under those illusions? And we need to use these 4 truths to overcome these illusions, to learn that God doesn't even know hate, that God can only love. God doesn't hate, we hate, and we are getting pretty damn good at it. God doesn't judge, we judge. God doesn't cast anyone into hell, we cast ourselves there. Holmes, in this thing called You, tells us if you want to stay out of hell, no one can ever be in it. It logically follows that if you want to be in heaven, no one can ever be outside of it. God doesn't hate. You are never alone. There are times in my life, difficult times, where I fall under the illusion that I am a separate, ghost-like being, disconnected from life and reality, that I will never be truly seen or known or understood. This identity that I experience is a construct. He is not real. The truth is that I am never alone. And as I learn not to disregard and abandon these so-called separated parts of myself, but to integrate them in, welcome him in, then I can experience that truth of life, that there's no such thing as alone. And that solitude is actually what reveals that truth for me. Now, life sucks is the trickiest one because sometimes it does. And yet, when we isolate an experience of challenge, we are disconnecting ourselves from that greater truth. I'm not here to sugarcoat any challenge that we've experienced, the devastation of loss, the pain that we may see taking place in a loved one's life or in our communities or in our country. I'm not trying to sugarcoat any of that. But we are called to remember our wholeness, that the shadow of a broken heart is always a deep gratitude for living, that the shadow side of a deep challenge is the understanding and the embracing of the gladness of adventure. Challenging experiences suck. Yet when we call them in and remember our wholeness, we are given everything that we need to still live life in gratitude. No matter the difficulty, this is the spiritual courage in each of us. We can celebrate life no matter what. As I was saying before, there is no greater blasphemy than this idea that we are unworthy. I do not mean this from a standpoint of some sort of spiritual participation trophy. Proving our worthiness to ourselves for many of us may be a day after day practice. However, to reveal our wholeness to ourselves, to learn to love ourselves as a precious being and not into trying to be someone we're not, is to unlock the door to the meaning of ultimate reality, our spirit, and the truth of this life. To overcome our sense of unworthiness is not only to reveal our worth, but is to become who we really are. Remember the 4 truths. Overcome the 4 illusions, and you will be practicing what Ernest Holmes meant by this thing called life and this thing called you. To end with a prayer from him, and I invite our practitioners to join me if they'd like in standing. They're like, we don't have the prayer, Josh, we can't read it. I know that the divine spirit is operating through me now. I know that I am not limited by anything that has happened or by anything that is now happening. I am entering into an entirely new set of conditions and circumstances. That which has no limit is flowing through my consciousness into action. I am guided by the same intelligence and inspired by the same imagination which scatters the moonbeams across the waves and holds the forces of nature in its grasp. So remembering in this prayer that God is love, and that God's love is the very foundation of our very identity and beingness. Restoring myself in this sacred truth, I know it reveals in my mind, in my body, in my life, and in my relationships. Remembering that we are one. We know that any experience in reality of divisiveness and separation is feeding off an illusion that only causes pain and suffering. May we remember that oneness, a courageous and bold oneness that can share it in any area of our life where separation appears to be the reality. Knowing that life is good, that there is a fundamental principle towards my liberty, my justice, my equality, my well-being. I align with this good and allow it to show up in my life. And I commit each day to renew and doing the best that I can. This means letting go of the day that was and embracing this moment that is right here and right now. We are in the right place at the right time in the right consciousness. So we call forth this divine love, this divine unity, this infinite goodness, and we allow it to take place in our lives right here and right now. Thank you, God. And so it is. Thanks for listening to the Mile High Church podcast. This podcast is made possible by the generous contributions from listeners like you. To make a donation, please visit milehighchurch.org.